Gazong and Lam Trabasa was in Jella, she because Darin Sindru. That's Sindru on Daba, Tajo Don Kuyogani, Simbe, Trabawam, Takonsena, Jan Kong Tago, Sena, Tajuchi, Sawa Nginji Lelode, Pontabadan, Kujuji, Jilu Dani Lelode, Takonza Ronjin Sayanayon, Romonga, Tadon. Kamonga Yang, Kongla Samjong, Data Membe, Duktabamare, Nurumare, Sambe, Takonsanda, Jiglone, Pasham Batelala. Then Mazanga Sonje Rome, Padme Basambanajo, Tombaron Yen on Yin, Kovisentin Yanayon. To Dombo Jene, then I hint up Dobame by Nosamare. Members of Sonji Sanke, Telon Data Don Mamba Sonja Namjo, Teta Bazendri, Podame Basambe, Shomon Nubati, members of Bayamba, Shaking, Tena Royo, Tanjo Muluta Baton, Shinji Samba, give it you drope, Sangaleja, Carbazon Banda Tabacausa. Sambong, Ruba, Huchimbuchena, then the Royong and Sonso, Mondrawa on the Mari, Tazo Sonji Compontavi, Sanjinke, Devalange, and then Persons of Bateda, just Indula ten the song and by Hine, so Sugan hint up down, Pangarakiti, Juniors and Battery. Something powder some Basivade. Tanganzo Jatenda Jevanga Podme Bane Nami Jong the Songala Dene Nelugayan Tamame Baronji, Lanjutruba Yajon Nandoyon Mado Nandoyon Masavale Kujan Sochimbo Kava Karba Tameba Jongube the Sawa Conlisena Namindong, then Jatenga Sayande, on the shore, family, tell number Mayemba, San Siki the Neba Sebi, then a consonant that Nami Jitravate Tangi, Sonje, Dane, something Japor the Sambangure. That Sharab Japor the Sambasandi, Toma two Bishop Kausa. Sanjin Ganji Jela, Sonje Jinbo, Lanjidroba, Yubate, Kone, Titan and the Sibala, then a consonant, Tombe Chu, Nanja None John, Tibachambo Sanji, Tuji, Tujin the long part of the Samberto, Sajin Salona, Ledon Yermo, Pachajadrba Maleba. Tendo Sone, Sajodon, Longa Tatsane, Tadu Membazo Bayamba, Shijin. Tishiba Yen, Lompara Samba, the Drubadon, Nonsalone, Tindrevan and the Marjibada, the Punza Ponadon, Tobato Bayan Tamji, Yendelan Jumbubaron, and something Chene, Tatoba Tela. Sharab to Badon, some Badon, Gambi Sharab Red, the Tauke, Kondo Shibaye, Porto Sambangaboteon, Yon Daba, Dami Toba, Coson number Motoba, Sharab Chisena, the Tamji, Porto Samba, Musuto Red, Jensen Telatan and Tolan, Changing, Johnson and Bati, the consonant, Sharab Porto Sambe. The Lanyar River Pacha don't chip out on Chipuma, Tela Dane, Consana, Long Travasavati, Tanteri.
Continuing from where we left off yesterday, we're concerned with the instruction on how the path must dispel delusion. And in terms of the 6 paramitas or transcendent virtues, we resume with diligence. Diligence is necessary in the course of traversing the path with the aim of eliminating all delusion or bewilderment. And diligence, as we learned, can be described in 2 ways. Constant diligence, that is always in effect throughout your experience without lapse or fail, as well as devoted diligence. To make a devoted effort means that no matter what kind of challenges or hardships might arise in the course of the path, you will not be unduly discouraged. Even if things should be so difficult that you feel temporarily unable to surmount such and such challenges, your recourse lies in this devoted sense of diligence, wherein you are determined to persevere in your efforts to train in virtue at all costs. In that way, devoted diligence is a sense of determined resolve that ensures that you do not fall subject to a sense of despair or inadequacy to the task that lies before you. To look at the significance of the kind of diligence that is required as you traverse the path to Buddhahood, consider that all perfect and completely awakened Buddhas who ever appear throughout all time originally begin their journey to Buddhahood as ordinary sentient beings, just like ourselves. And with the inspiration to attain perfect and complete Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings, and thus the generation of bodhicitta, they embark upon the path. And as they undertake the journey in pursuit of the highest goal, they rely upon a sense of irreversible courage in facing the challenge that lies before them, knowing that such courage is essential in having the motivation necessary to actually achieve perfect and complete awakening or enlightenment. And thus, in order to sustain that kind of long-term effort, all such individuals who traverse the path to Buddhahood must rely upon a tremendous, unimaginably great sense of diligence in their efforts. This is essential for the attainment of perfect and complete Buddhahood. If we consider the resources that are involved in the traversal of the path, it is necessary not only to have the resolve to awaken or to cultivate bodhicitta, but also to come into contact with those qualified spiritual teachers who are capable of providing guidance and giving you the teachings whereby you can actually progress towards liberation. Then, by virtue of one's individual efforts to utilize those teachings and to follow your teachers, you seek to practice the teachings, to develop them in your experience. And all of that depends upon diligence. The next of the transcendent virtues or paramitas is the transcendent perfection of meditation or mental stability. Throughout beginningless existences as ordinary beings, we have been under the constant influence of distraction, preoccupation with all manner of different elements of our existence. And thus far, we have not been able to directly recognize the natural state, the true condition of mind and reality, just as it is. So in order to begin the process of counteracting our constant, ongoing state of unredressed distraction, we need to undertake training in the development of transcendent meditation. By means of our gradual progress in the cultivation of meditation, we can gradually reduce and ultimately eliminate the lingering latency of distractedness, our tendency to be obscured as to the experience of our own nature because of the habit of distraction itself. And thus, we strive to cultivate dhyana, or meditation, which is a state of mind that is singly focused on virtue. As well, we cultivate the sixth of the transcendent virtues, that of prajna, knowledge or intelligence. As we discussed yesterday, there are different varieties or aspects to the development of knowledge. And the first of these is the process of hearing the teachings, learning Dharma. One of the teachings that we learn in the course of the study of Dharma is the fact that Sugata Garbha, or the basic potential for blissful awakening, is innately present within the continuum of every individual being's experience. Each one of us already intrinsically possesses the very basis that makes possible the experience of perfect and complete Buddhahood. However, as we are obscured and thus do not ordinarily experience that perfect nature as it is necessary to learn and train in Dharma so that we can gradually bring about the process of revealing or actualizing that true nature. And in order to do this, we must begin with the ascertainment of how the journey to Buddhahood unfolds. And this involves learning about the six transcendent virtues and how they constitute the path of the Bodhisattva, as well as learning about the means and techniques that are used to purify or eliminate the two obscurations, those consisting in mental afflictions and those consisting in karma. Learning about the path that leads to Buddhahood further involves gaining familiarity with the 10 bhumis, or levels of awakening, as well as the 5 paths that constitute the successive phases in the individual's attainment of realization and awakening. With that knowledge gained through learning, we then begin the process of actually implementing this knowledge in our experience, with the aim of bringing about the full revelation of the fruition or result of the path itself, which can be described as the ultimate culmination of the twofold process of relinquishing all that is to be relinquished and realizing all that is to be realized. In that way, the development of transcendent knowledge begins with this process of learning the teachings by hearing them in conceptual study, as well as thinking about the meaning of what you have learned. And through ascertainment of correct knowledge by those means, you then strive to develop knowledge through experience with the aim of realizing the fact that there is no truly existent identity or self. As I mentioned yesterday, in terms of the relationships among the 6 paramitas or transcendent virtues, the first 5 of these are transcendent only when they are informed by the 6th one, transcendent knowledge or intelligence, because it is necessary for such insightful knowledge to serve as the basis for the other 5 transcendences, and that is what makes them transcendent. All of these together are to be gradually implemented, and the process of your development of these 6 transcendent virtues takes place in the course of the third of Gampopa's four dharmas, relating to how the path dispels delusion.
Dozana, Nimbadon, Tedava Consona, Yantino Yonso, Zopichida, Continuum Bacone. That's all you somebody that two Domboji and the long Yonsalam, some cover from me, sound of so dense or Casingonayon. Dear Cousalatane, Tondro, Tudor, Tendo Reduction Bigone, Taye Besanche, Bottom Mepa, the Mayke, Taba Savagade, Dear Tamje Ramje. I just don't know, yeah, Penny, Sonji Conform, Long on top of you, neighbor, Cherbacausa, the Mission on Sujone, that on so devaging Jingom, Shaso Nimbaga, Shingan again, Sonja Ronga Tabi, Shangon, John, the Latin so sugar, Cordia, Loma, Sandozachi, near Batamji, near Drangamba, Shune. Tatu Zoba Sonji, Combo Batanda, Tadashi Bagan, Toya Rumbodon, the Dava Soja Chamba Safari, the Diga, the Sonji Samba, Lana Dene, Drebe Sachalanga, so Tadashi Bagan, that's some big code. She raised Diga than the Long Trabaseva Sevati time. Then Trabai and Java Then Trova Teda Tamji, Yen Nel Rongan, Robert Samle, Tadi the Mur, Duba, Yondabe, Sharon, Sinian Tambit, Jesus Zambala Den, Dode, Yensin Tisana, Tanakan, Bonzana, Pumugupa, Bonza Deki, Deni, Hiki Robayam Bachambala, Songre, Bejana, Charum Churishawam Bala, Jansu Bala, Jansu Sharon, Mochi Bale, the Tadime Patena, Tani Janoa, not so much at no Nayon. There comes Tanatana, Ishiki Robale, Lawson may be. Tommy the Senjano, the Lawson Zane, then Zendon, Danze, Nichitaneko, Chinsonale. You know the Tamji, Pena Yamato yes, Nongi, Teleconsonant, Tadu Yishite, Robert Samle, Bonzadon, Bonzi Java, Tamji, Moki the Tosun Batella Tene, then consonant, that's suggestion button, Robachim, Nanjonam. Then goes a jigging and Bazoba, Sonjibam, Chavan, Badon, Jivadan, Judune, and Bazoba, Sonjib dancer. Lame Pateri. The Latin and Jonga, Country and the Jansu, Consonant. I did it. Country and the Jansu, Nothing in it than beton, non sound, Cosan Tralame, somebody. Tiny, you know, now, Saba, nothing in it, then bound, Tanquanzembe. Lu Nanton did, Yen true map, nobody. Yana Tani can know the map, Nanga, Tombata, Mare. Tani can know on the Tangi, Cosanga Rongeri. Nothing in the Dumbeton Ate Samji, Tonjate, Chuchukodon. They know that you don't call Lasapa, Namban Sopa, Mason Noante, Lonches of Codon. Delusion, Chiba the Savat. No, the trouble curry. Pena Melon, Zunino Yiri. Melon number tapping walla, Zuni the in the true married. Mardujon, Kadoto, Yodon, than a consonant Tamchi, Nelson of Mongore. Then I know the in the Dembeton, Severi. Melon know the in the true men I own, then consonant Zodong, you con about it. No, some the meeting was along the way. The Tomberg da Cousin Cham, Yiti and the race. The latter in the Tata, Cousin Gaji and the Lojin Chonto, and the Shandanola, then con Manga Roban Cheve Garchin, Gamjin, Conde Yemitopas in the house. The Tavan some the thoughts of a concertel, course in the Losium, young in the Basil Losium. Tenatan is over Jimbo, such a Jimbo Namji, Conde Yamni, see Yamni save the Tanteri. The theatre of the thought of passenger of the soul, Cinema. A wrong so on their bottom, theatre of the Jibbalama Namji, to Jesus alone, Senior Damba, Cadena Tendi, so Sutombu, Coatum. They did on the New Topa, Music Jena, the Yiki Jane, also Young Tapa, then Consonant and Yonsolona, David Tata Shiva again, do a long top of my but Yolanda, not on the Togo age. There's on the Mazes on Ado Jitiba, Kapsa, Sene Tamji, Yayeko, no Jitamji, Ladon Lamo, so age. They can't so good to eat it in a wrong way. So Yaya Congo number, the Shawa Samle. There, Gonzo Comba Jebanogi, Sadola Sobasipa Sawan, Go Marawa. Then I see your Robatella, Consona. The Tabishin Compton, Yaya Conla Sopatori. Then Gonzo to Jinyan Senans again. Then Consonata, Ponzan Yamu Mate, Yoreva. Then he sing I wrong here. Yin alle wronging said, that Ponza the Ponzi Imanawas. Pumbo Sachi, Pumbo Nga, singing on the Yavor. Dear Tamji Tanjin, their own Tobakan, Java Ringari. Diligence but an launches of Sardugu Mandawas. Then Young Asio Dangoso, Tanjin or Yavor was. Dear Tamji Young wronging. Tell us in the Tata Shivaye. Conde Yemi say with hand. Tenda Yamandras. Teta Yon Taba, Toba, Long Nelson Lambatella, then a consona. Oh, that won't get up. Evatella, and a Toba His and Charles, Evade, Neat and Rajikatana, Sungu Yamandras, Tangaron, Coat something, non to the damping only, consona, wrong. Goa Combaji, Terabi, and Satavi, Goa, Tene, Tarikis and my hands.
Now, the general path that culminates in the attainment of perfect Buddhahood or awakening, as I have described it thus far, may require an extraordinarily long period of time to complete. It may go on for 3 immeasurably long aeons, or even longer than that. In general, the journey is so inconceivably vast in its scope and duration because the work of benefiting sentient beings and developing yourself is so potentially limitless and requires the willingness to approach a journey that is potentially infinite in its scope. Why is that? As long as all flaws, distortions, and obscurations, in short, all that is to be relinquished, have not yet been finally eliminated, then there is still work to be done. It is necessary to continue with the process of refining and training as well as purifying entire realms of experience and guiding sentient beings by way of bringing them to spiritual maturity and helping them progress towards the attainment of perfect awakening. But within that overall journey to Buddhahood, there are special means whereby courageous awakening individuals or bodhisattvas can employ special techniques whereby they can ensure that other sentient beings progress on the path that ultimately culminates in liberation in special ways. We speak of liberation through seeing, liberation through hearing, liberation through recollection, liberation through contact, and other special ways in which beings can be guided towards liberation by special bodhisattvas who are present and acting for the benefit of others. By means of these extraordinary forms of liberation and the potential for attaining such freedom that arises through coming into contact with such great bodhisattvas, sentient beings can be guaranteed of their progress on the path that leads to the experience of Buddhahood in the ultimate sense. But even before that, those sentient beings who have the fortune of gaining that karmic potential for freedom will progress to the fortune of being reborn in pure realms, such as Sukhavati, the blissful realm, or Abhirati, the joyous realm, and others. And once sentient beings have been reborn in those pure states, they can then continue to progress on the bodhisattva path in the pursuit of their own awakening. All of this is possible because of the extraordinary capabilities of great realized beings who are in a position to use such a powerful means to help others. But all of this can only be possible with the previous accumulation of tremendous amounts of merit as well as incredible effort. And all of this thus takes place in the course of the path, which, as Gampopa indicates, must serve to dispel delusion. The fourth of Lord Gampopa's four dharmas describes how delusion itself manifests as pristine wisdom or awareness. Ordinarily, in the natural state or true condition of all phenomena, there are no distinctions whatsoever. But we fail to directly realize that in our bewildered state as ordinary beings, owing to the proliferation of conceptual and discursive mental activity, as well as the fixation that goes along with that, fixation in many different forms, including fixation on the apparency of subjective and objective reality. We don't see the natural state of things as it is, and thus we remain obscured to the true nature of our experience. And this is what is meant by saying that we persist in a state of bewilderment or delusion. And yet, from the perspective of the natural state itself, there are no distinctions. There is no real difference between subject and object or any other such mistaken forms of apprehension. So in order for us to realize that natural state as it is, we are seeking to transcend the apparency of duality. We are looking to go beyond fixation, which prevents us from seeing that in actual reality there are no such differentiations. To illustrate what this is like, we could consider how ice thaws and becomes water. Or we could think of the waves that appear on the surface of water. While relatively we can say that there is a distinction between ice and the water that it consists of, or waves and the water that they consist of, in actuality, there is no real difference between the two. Whatever distinctions we might identify or conceptualize are merely apparent distinctions that are real only from the relative perspective or seeming perspective in our own experience. But from the perspective of the natural state of all phenomena, those distinctions have never intrinsically existed or really been established in their own right. Nevertheless, as ordinary sentient beings, it seems to us that there is an objectively real reality that is independent and exists outside of us as individuals. Consider the sun and its natural radiance. We can identify these two as isolates, conceiving of the sun as one entity and its light and warmth as being something else that comes from it. But actually, the radiance of the sun has never been something different from the sun itself. It has always been the naturally intrinsic property of the sun. This is how the natural state really is. So therefore, as far as the practice of Dharma in the pursuit of generating realization of the natural state as the ultimate fruition, we are looking to realize that original sameness in which there are no distinctions and there is nothing to be fixated on. In particular, those contemplative practitioners who train in the systems of Mahamudra and great perfection have the special means whereby they can generate uncommon realization of this natural state. And moreover, by means of those instructions and techniques found in those systems and in the secret mantra Vajrayana, the entire duration of the journey to perfect awakening is vastly expedited. Rather than taking many innumerable aeons to complete the journey, practitioners who assiduously strive in the teachings of Mahamudra or great perfection can, in the very best of cases, achieve perfect Buddhahood within one life and one body. Or, even if that should not be possible, then they may achieve that same fruition within 7 successive lifetimes. Or, if that should not be possible, then certainly within 16 lifetimes they will awaken to perfection. This is the uncommon approach unique to the system of secret mantra or Vajrayana. According to According to Jamgon Kongtrul Lodru Tai, we can consider the two aspects of reality in the following way. The two aspects of reality, the apparent or seeming side and then the absolute or ultimate side, are not really existent as independent realities, and thus they are empty of such intrinsic reality. Nevertheless, even while seeming reality manifests as the diversity of appearances, it is not simply nothing, but in fact is the 3 kayas of perfect Buddhahood. This instruction gives us a special perspective whereby we can look at the nature of reality in terms of phenomenal experience by seeing appearances for what they truly are. As he indicates, appearances themselves are in actuality nothing other than the 3 kayas or dimensions of perfect Buddhahood itself. To explain, even while appearances manifest, they are empty of intrinsic or independent existence. appearances as such have never existed in their own right. And that natural emptiness of phenomena is the Dharmakaya. Those appearances are also lucid in the way in which they manifest. They are clear in our experience. And that lucid or clear aspect of appearances is the Sambhogakaya. Then, the sheer diversity or variety of manifold experience corresponds to the Nirmanakaya. And thus, the true nature of a phenomenal experience is the three kayas. Consider, when an image is reflected in the surface of a mirror, you see the image in perfectly clear, vivid detail. It is immediate in its manifestation. And yet, the reflected image is not something that is really existent in its own right. While its colors, detail, shape, and so forth are all vividly apparent, the thing that appears to be in the surface of the mirror is not actually there. In the same way, all of the qualities of perfection that constitute the experience of Buddhahood are inherent within the very ground of reality. All of the richness of perfect awakening is potentially present right there in the midst of our phenomenal experience. In the short Vajradhara lineage prayer, we pray that we may realize the inseparability of samsara and nirvana as meditators for whom phenomenal display manifests unceasingly. In the systems of Mahamudra and Great Perfection, we are seeking to realize the ultimate fruition wherein there is no real difference between samsaric experience or cyclic existence on the one hand and nirvanic experience, or the transcendence of suffering, on the other. We pray thus to our precious teachers so that we ourselves can directly realize that ultimate reality by virtue of the instructions that our teachers so kindly impart for our benefit. Therefore, by these uncommon means, we can approach Buddhahood not only from the general path of the sutras, which requires an extraordinarily long period of time, as I've described, but in particular, we can utilize the techniques and practices of the secret mantra or Vajrayana approach, which are described as the quick path to Buddhahood for these reasons. Now, in the actual practice of secret mantra, we strive to foster purity of perception in terms of our phenomenal experience. Rather than seeing our surroundings as being ordinary and consisting in gross material composite substances, we regard our world as being a pure realm, a place that is naturally devoid of flaws and imperfections. And we consider the immediate domain in which we find ourselves to be a celestial mansion or palace, absolutely perfect and inconceivable in its grandeur. Now, the purpose of implementing the teachings in practice, generally speaking, is to relinquish all that must be relinquished. And generally speaking, that which is to be relinquished or eliminated can be described as the 5 basic poisonous states of mind or afflictions. However, from this uncommon or special perspective, we need not regard the 5 afflictions as something to get rid of as such, but rather we are going beyond that in seeing that there is ultimately no difference between something to get rid of and a process whereby you get rid of it. And this brings us to the profound point of the fact that the 5 afflictions are in their true nature or aspect nothing other than 5 aspects of pristine wisdom or awareness. And thus, according to Mahamudra and Great Perfection, we are seeking to transcend the afflictions by way of realizing them for what they are in their true nature, which is as the pure and pristine wisdom of perfect Buddhahood. In this way, the object of realization in these profound systems and in the approach of secret mantra is to directly experience the fact that there are no really existent distinctions or divisions between something to relinquish and a process of relinquishing it, or between samsara and nirvana. And this is what is implied by the fourth of Lord Gampopa's dharmas, relating to how delusion manifests ultimately as pristine wisdom. Now, I've completed my discussion of the four dharmas of Lord Gampopa on this occasion. However, I feel that my own understanding is quite limited, and I am sure that in some ways I have been mistaken in my understanding and presentation of this knowledge for your benefit. Nevertheless, I can assure you that I have done the best I can to explain these four profound instructions given my limited abilities and knowledge.